I'm Kirby Allison, and I consider myself immensely privileged to have traveled extensively while exploring the world of quality, craftsmanship, and tradition. From the preeminent tailoring houses of London's Savile Row and the majestic beauty of the Scottish countryside on a traditional driven game shoot, all the way to the rich tobacco fields and cigar factories of Cuba's finest cigar producers. Today, this journey of discovery continues as I set out on a 2-week grand tour to explore the world of quality, craftsmanship, and tradition here in Italy. Italy is, of course, a country steeped in history, from the Roman Empire of ancient times through the Renaissance of the 15th and 16th centuries to the modern state that it is today. Its magnificent cities always manage to combine a deep respect for the past with a keen outlook towards the future. But more than anything else, Italy is about the Italian people, always stylish and well-dressed, friendly and forthcoming. On this trip, we shall be meeting up with a wonderful array of celebrated Italian artisans and craftspeople. From bespoke tailors and shoemakers to a single vineyard winemaker, and even bespoke pen makers. This is truly an experience not to be missed, so I hope you'll join me, Kirby Allison, as we set out for what promises to be a truly extraordinary journey exploring the world of quality, craftsmanship, and tradition of this great country. Hi, I'm Kirby Allison, and I'm tremendously excited to be here in Florence today, outside the Duomo, the 15th century Cathedral Santa Maria del Fiore, on what is the first day of my tour through Italy, exploring the world of quality, craftsmanship, and tradition. Here in Florence, it is that last one, tradition, which is inescapable at every turn. There is also another fantastic reason as to why I'm so excited to be here today, and that is because my very good friend Tommaso Melani, CEO of the iconic Florentine shoemaking firm Stefano Bemer, has agreed to serve as my guide to this incredible city. Tommaso and his family have been at the heart of quality craftsmanship and tradition here in Florence for the better part of 100 years. This morning, Tommaso has kindly agreed to meet me for an early walking tour of this incredible city before heading over to Stefano Bemer's flagship atelier. So join me as we set out to explore the world of quality, craftsmanship, and tradition.
And so very happy we're having the chance of having this early morning walk because we get to see the Ponte Vecchio without the crowd. This bridge means so much to the city and to me personally, the story of this building. So if you look up, the Corridoio Vasariano is probably the latest addition to this bridge. It was started in the late 1200s.
Wow.
Originally was for butchers and fish, market. But over time, it was transformed by Cosimo de' Medici first and Ferdinando I after into really a gem for the city. It was Ferdinando actually that established a rule that only goldsmiths could have their stores on the Ponte Vecchio because he didn't like the stench when he was walking the corridor from the Pitti Palace that was his residency to the Piazza della Signoria, which we're gonna walk by right just now. And the beauty of how this, it's a history of the city, right? It started as such a rich city. It's the Renaissance with Lorenzo de' Medici made it what it is today. The greatest collection of Renaissance artwork is in the Uffizi, and then Cosimo and Ferdinando completed this gem before it was officially handed over to someone else, besides the Medici family. But this is, again, the Medici family at its best in creating a passage from home to work.
Without having to step outside.
Decorated by goldsmiths and without having to feel the stench of butchers. I think it's a beautiful story.
Well, it's one of the most iconic locations in all of Florence. And of course, so well known for the goldsmiths even today. I mean, now it's jewelry, it's watchmakers. We've got Patek Philippe, we've got Rolex, so many other incredible.
Because technically,
jewelry.
they all sell jewels as well.
Okay.
It can be just watches.
Okay, so it can't be just watches.
It needs to be
still
jewels.
To this day,
it needs to be jewels.
Still includes
Absolutely.
jewelry. And these firms, I mean, are they still owned by Florentine families?
Absolutely, yeah. Everything. The friends of mine, Elisa Piccini, is the Patek dealer, and too bad they're closed. They have a beautiful little terrace that's looking on the river, and if you're lucky enough to know them, you might get a coffee.
We'll
there,
have to come back for that. But early morning without the throngs of tourists is really
precious,
beautiful.
Right? It's really precious.
And look at the morning sunlight off the river.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah. Great.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Imagine you're Cosimo de' Medici, you're a ruler of the city. You live at Palazzo Pitti, which is exceptional enough, and you've just decided that you didn't want to live in Piazza della Signoria anymore, so now you're commuting to work.
Okay.
My walk, it's like feeling how Cosimo de' Medici must have felt in walking to work in the morning, which I love the idea.
Well, this is your walk into the city every morning, isn't it?
No, I make it such.
Okay.
I like to get to work a little earlier and have my walk in the city when the city is still empty. I get my coffee and I have time to appreciate the city without the noise.
Yeah. I mean, what's incredible to me is how long this has been here. Right? I mean, these goldsmiths, this industry of fine jewelry making is authentic to what it is that we are seeing today.
And the little houses that you see on top where the goldsmiths would live. So it was built over time. This bridge was only a bridge when it was started in the 1300s as a defense of the city.
For the city.
But it developed. It's been alive for centuries. I love it.
Well, it's incredible to be, again, just how this, the tradition here in Florence is really at every turn and it has been like this in this
it's
city
embedded in the
since
city.
the beginning.
Look at the little details. Like, those knobs are probably there since the 1700s.
Yeah, who knows?
I love it.
Yeah.
It's, that's why, again, I like to live my city still as a tourist, meaning to really look at details as if I didn't know any of it, and
There's
then
so
try
much
to
to
guess
discover.
what it was.
I mean, even the medieval, fortification of the actual stores, with this oak wood and the metal.
Because back in the day, this was security.
Yeah,
right?
that was security. That's incredible.
I love it.
Yeah.
Florence is a city of muted colors. So we have the ochre, the stone, but with the sunlight, it becomes gold.
It's gorgeous. The water reflecting, or the sun reflecting off of the water, the beautiful backdrop of the Ponte Vecchio.
Can you believe they used to swim in the river?
I can't believe it. I don't think I'd take a swim there.
No, me neither. But it's a special thing. It's really a special thing. And so in my walk, if I was Cosimo de' Medici, this is where I would get to work in the morning after crossing the bureaucracy of the city, the Uffizi. And this was rebuilt by the Medici over time to represent the grandeur of Florence, the solidity of the Granducato. But what I love about this Piazza della Signoria, never lost the name, even when it became a Granducato, are these two masterpieces that you will see. So the David di Donatello. I love the David as a symbol, right? It's powerful. The slinger that wins over the giant. And the copy, of course, of the other David, that it's the original inside the Accademia.
I think the first time my wife saw that, she cried. It was so beautiful.
It is beautiful in many ways. It's beautiful for its perfection, but also for its imperfections. Look how big the hands are if compared to the rest of the body. The power of the slinger is in his hands, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of symbolism.
Well, I mean, of course, Florence being the center of the Renaissance has some of the most incredible artistic works in the world.
Incredible. The collection of the Uffizi alone is mind-blowing.
But one of the things I'm struck by is just the beauty and the fact that these incredible works of art, I mean, truly masterpieces of human existence, right? Some of the best to have ever been created aren't artifacts that were brought into the city, but were created out of the city from the people that have lived and inhabited Florence for the better part of over a millennia.
The Medici and the Vatican have been fighting over Michelangelo and most of the architects that worked in both cities to get their commission in the city. You were fighting over artists, not art.
That's right. That's right. I mean, incredible. Wow.
Let's go to have our coffee.
Yeah, great.
Right?
Look at this. Beautiful. Ah, ciao, buongiorno.
What would you like?
Well, what's traditional? What's proper?
Cappuccino and brioche.
There we go. Cappuccino brioche.
Allora due.
Benissimo.
Grazie mille.
Okay, grazie.
Grazie.
I mean, what a spectacular place this
Isn't
is.
it? I love this corner of Florence. So I grew up here, so
Okay.
for me
really?
this
Okay,
is
what's this neighborhood called?
Sant'Ambrogio.
Okay.
Borgo Allegri and Sant'Ambrogio. Santa Croce is here,
Okay.
like we were yesterday. Like, it's a minute away. So I really grew up here. As a kid, this was my playground.
I mean, what was it like growing up in Florence? I mean, it always gets progressively more touristy. And so I would imagine that, whenever you were growing up, I mean, did the city, retain a certain charm that maybe is not found today?
The city has obviously changed in many ways. It's been, in a word that we use everywhere now, gentrified in certain areas, and it became a little more touristic. But there are still areas of the city that really resemble what they were 50 years ago. This being one of them.
Okay.
The farmers market where I do the shopping in the morning, the butcher, the produce lady, and the mozzarella di bufala that comes from Naples fresh every morning. This was exactly the same when I was a teenager. And then Santa Croce has changed. There's more touristic shops.
Okay.
I remember the city, Piazza Santa Croce with cars in it. Now it's, of course, limited traffic.
Which could be
I
one of
remember
the
a
improvements.
gas station. We had a gas station in Piazza Santa Croce right by the entrance of the church.
Okay.
I had my first street fight in Piazza Santa Croce.
Really? Oh, some memories.
Absolutely. It was beautiful. And some neighborhoods haven't changed, in fact.
It's nice that Florence has retained that element of authenticity then, because, so many of the world cities, the influx of people from other countries has pushed the locals out.
Yeah.
I mean, in so many ways, London, is still retaining a lot of the heritage shops. You still today don't find people living in St. James's the way that they maybe once did. But I get the sense in Florence that, that texture, that fabric, right, still has that hand that I imagine it has had for the better part
It's
of the
still
century.
here. Living in downtown, that's challenging. There are no facilities. There's no big, food stores, because everything has become more commercial oriented. Fashion brands pushed everything out of the main street of the city center. The grocery stores are, grew bigger, but so they couldn't find the space. So I would say it is probably a little more challenging. Everything got more expensive, but it's happening everywhere. I spend my other half of the year in New York, and New York is different from what I remember 20 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
Areas of the city that were simply cool and affordable at the time, now you can't touch them.
Yeah. What are some of the memories that, as you kind of look back on your life in Florence, having the perspective of now living in New York, you remember fondly?
It's funny because living abroad gave me perspective over things in the city that I took for granted my entire life. Stuff that I thought I didn't need or love as much. It turned out that I really appreciate.
Pasta and espresso.
Correct. Even like sitting here in the morning before going to the office. It's such a privilege. The equivalent would be what, Starbucks?
In the United States.
So sometimes it's
with my mobile app, after I drop the kids off,
it's crazy, right? So slower life, absolutely. My twice a week, this is what I do on a Saturday afternoon and normally on a Wednesday. Twice a week I come, I park my car early in the morning. I go for a walk in the city. Then I come to the farmer's market, one of the first ones to get in. So I choose my stuff. They know me, they know what I like.
Yeah.
Ciao, caro. I would like to introduce Giulio to Kirby. Giulio is the owner of Cibreo,
Ciao.
son of Fabio,
Thank you for having us.
one of the chef in town from Florence that made original peasant, if I want to say, food famous. The name of the food, Cibreo, is a sauce, is a meat sauce that it's made with the remains of the butchering of the chicken and of the veal. And when it was his father that, with my mother, they brought me like a little piece of bread with the meat sauce. I'm a meat guy, but at the time I was a 10-year-old, probably younger, probably 8-year-old. And they brought this thing, and my mom says, "Oh, you have to try it." So I tried it, and it was fantastic, delicious. And then they told me what goes in it. But at that point, you can't say I don't like it.
Yes,
it's
that's
too
right.
late.
Yeah.
So I owe his father like pretty much my appreciation for real Tuscan Florentine food. He brought it to a different level of refinement, but most of all appreciation.
Yeah. Well, I must take your details for a booking this week then for dinner.
Please.
You must.
I'm ready to serve the meatball right now if you want.
It's been cooking all night, right?
I would say yes, right? So,
Please enjoy
Grazie.
grazie, caro. Grazie.
Wow, look at this. I mean, again, one of the things I love is the authenticity here. I mean, how long has his family been running this shop in this location?
Second generation, Fabio started it with the first restaurant, which is across the street, Cibreo. And then he had ideas. The Cibreo Café, the Terato del Sale, which is a beautiful concept. It was a club, so you have to be a member to be part of it. And it's open lunch and dinner. Lunch is communal tables. And dinner, there's a show, there's a cultural show, normally theater. And you have to attend the entire thing to have dinner. You cannot have dinner and leave. It's a cultural association.
And they still do this across the street.
And they still do it.
And we made twists
and then he did like Cibreo, where they make this incredible ravioli. The stuff that they make food-wise is perfect.
Well, it's hard to believe that this space we're in right now hasn't existed exactly as it is for a century. I mean, the wood paneling, right?
First of all,
red velvet.
You can't build anything in Florence, right? Florence is what it is. Outside of the city center, maybe, but you can't build a thing in Florence. So upgrading, renovating, it's always been the case. The same thing that we did at Stefano Bemer. It's an old chapel. We can upgrade it, but we cannot raise it. That's it. So I had a comment one day on, I think I posted something like this on Instagram. And someone commented like, you live a very glamorous life. And I replied, said the opposite. This is very unglamorous. This is what is normal to me, right? It is a privilege to live such a normalcy, but it's very unglamorous if you're born in Florence.
It's delicious. So this is a traditional Florentine breakfast, a nice croissant.
No, I don't have it every morning, obviously, otherwise I'd be twice as big, but yeah. I normally indulge in the cappuccino. That's my sweet treat in the morning.
So talk to me a little bit about the coffee culture. I mean, I know that the Italians are very particular about the way they take coffee.
It also depends where, right?
Okay.
Different ways.
Well, here in Florence.
Different method. In Florence, we're more flexible. I would say you can still order a cappuccino until noon.
And noon, okay.
Other places they would tell you probably 10 is the cutout line. Definitely not after lunch. Absolutely never after dinner. But we bend. I hear it after dinner asking for cappuccino, and I see it served. So they'll
indulge you.
We like to say that we're strict about it, but not really as strict as we should.
Yeah. So cappuccino would be traditionally it's breakfast.
It's breakfast. Cappuccino is breakfast.
It's a cup of milk.
It's the amount of milk. Correct.
Yeah.
It's the amount of milk. You can have a macchiato, which is
espresso with a little bit of
a third of a quantity of milk, same quantity of coffee. I had to actually teach the local bar in a coffee shop in New York where I go have my afternoon thing to make me the macchiato like the way I like it, exactly. Because otherwise the cortado they normally make it's our cappuccino, and the cappuccino back in the States is 3 times as big. Yeah. So it's a meal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, really. People that order cappuccinos, from Starbucks or lattes.
Oh, it's a venti, right?
I mean, I often question whether or not they realize that it's basically a gigantic cup of hot milk. And how do you? I mean, for one, it can't be healthy, and second is how does one drink that in the morning?
For years. So for me, I order a coffee, and I mean the espresso, right?
Okay.
So there's no other way in Florence to order a coffee. You order a coffee, and then you have a cup of milk. And then you have a cup of coffee. And then you have a cup of milk. And then you have a cup of coffee. 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 And then you have a cu to get coffee.
So you would just ask for a coffee, and
For
an
years
espresso would
in
come.
the States, I would get into a coffee place and I would ask for a coffee, and they would give me the drip.
Yeah.
And now I know better, and I need to ask for an espresso. It's funny how culturally, again, coffee in the States, unless you ask for an espresso, is the drip.
Is a drip coffee. That's right. And here, if you ask for a drip coffee, they
Oh,
can't make
it's
it.
tough.
It's
It's
a cafe
tough.
americano, which is diluted espresso.
Correct. Which is, we don't want to talk about
Yeah.
that.
Well, back to growing up in Florence. I mean, again, one of the things I'm struck by is how the city. This is really the first time I've spent any meaningful amount of time in Florence, but having traveled to other places, yes, you have these, really touristic locations, and the Ponte Vecchio, which we walked across, the Duomo, which I saw earlier, or where we were in front of the city hall. I mean, yes, it's become touristic, but it still retains that historic and authentic facade. I mean, it's been unchanged, although there's more people and there might be streetcars and street vendors. The Ponte Vecchio and the stores in the Ponte Vecchio are exactly today as they were 100, 200 years ago.
Well, Florence is different things. Is a museum itself, and therefore it's kept by the city hall as such. So changing things in Florence, anything, even if you want to change the color or the facade of a building, you need to get a permit from the city hall, and they will never give you a permit to change it. So,
Which is nice in many ways. I'm sure it's
fairly-
frustrating,
fairly
challenging.
recently, so I'm just buying a new space in San Nicolò to dedicate one workshop only to the production of our highest ready-to-wear line, the Tradizione. And it's a corner, and originally the building had, barns, so every opening of the ground floor was for
a
horses,
stable.
right? So but then over the years has been closed up. So now I can apply to reopen the windows, but I need a permit from the city hall to reopen it. And it's a procedure that would take me like 2 or 3 months only to get the permission to reopen a door that was there to begin with. So nothing in Florence is possible without the permit. And when I would say, like, it's frustrating at times because maybe you have nice ideas that would make the city nicer, but on an average, you have to presume that people will do stupid things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if we don't want the next building to be purple,
Yeah.
then you need to delegate someone that knows better.
We see this in St. James's, right, in
Yeah.
London, where you get this beautiful street of some of the most, incredible classical architecture ever constructed, Regency-style buildings. And then you have this, monolith, 1970s brutalist office building that, you look at, you question how anyone ever allowed this to be built. And the problem is now that it's built, it's there.
There's nothing you can do. We have areas outside of the main viali that have been developed in the 60s and 70s, and obviously back then you were not looking at the suburbs as something that one day will be one with the city, right? So there was no control over the aesthetic of some areas, and now we have them.
Yeah.
Nothing you can do.
Absolutely. So back to growing up, in Florence. I mean, your family has been here, probably for as long as you can remember. But
I did 23andMe, what is it?
Okay.
And turns out I'm 98% Tuscan.
there we go. So it's
Which was ironic, because oh my God.
It's been here for longer than than Ancestry.com
Longer than I
can
know.
draw the family tree.
Longer than I know, incredible.
But your family. So talk to me a little bit about your family, because I know that, that they've been in many ways at the center of quality craftsmanship and tradition, here. And, give me a little bit of just kind of background of,
So
how the family got started.
I say the generation I know, the generations I've met. My great-grandfather was a leather artisan, and I had a workshop in Via del Corso, just downtown near the Piazza della Repubblica. Books, boxes, that kind of stuff. That's how my grandfather learned the craft, and had the idea of using the craft as a tool to build Scuola del Cuoio as a give back to the community, to train orphans of World War II, to the leather making, to earn a living eventually, and then created a company, hired them. And that's the story of my family in the leather industry.
Okay.
Started with the intuition that my grandfather had that after World War II, everyone should have done something for the city. And that's what he knew what to do.
Because the Second World War was devastating.
Oh my God, there was nothing. I mean, in a sense, it's been like a wildfire. Then after that, everything's been growing fast, but there was nothing left of the economy. So, my mother's side of the family, it's remained in the leather business. My father's side of the family, they're lawyers. Different. I would have been a good lawyer probably, but I was not as fascinated by being a lawyer as being in creative.
You had some accounting experience too, so in some ways,
My background is business school, so I'm technically a CPA, an auditor.
The maternal side of the family's pulled you over.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for that because it gave me the chance to be more creative in what I do.
But you grew up around this leather school.
Two things. I grew up at the leather school, Scuola del Cuoio, and my mother was running the art gallery. My grandfather had an art gallery, so my mother was managing the art gallery. So it was a fascinating blend of two things. On one side, the artisanal part of the business, and on the other side, I was in contact with painters and sculptures, and it was the artistic part of our family that was very, very alive at the time. And I guess the combination of the two shaped who I am and how I see the world. It's a creative effort, regardless whether you're making a product or creating a painting. You're still giving birth to an idea.
Yeah. What's interesting about shoemaking is that, and suit making for that matter, is the combination of the craftsmanship and the artisanship, and that you actually have to make something by hand, with the artistic side of sculpture. It has to be proportioned, balanced, and beautiful at the end of the day.
The design is art.
And the more that I travel and meet with shoemakers and meet with suit makers, and the more that I really dive into this, the more I realize how those two objectives are often in competition or compete with one another. The functional aesthetic of making something that is well-fitting and comfortable with something that is beautiful and artistic.
So, but my grandfather, as a hobby, was a painter himself. And many of the painters that he was familiar with and friends with because of the art gallery, we had them as guests in my grandfather's personal studio and at home. And many, to me, were like uncles, right? It's like it was like knowing them since I was born.
Yeah.
And they taught me how to look at things. Everyone had a different sense of aesthetic. They taught me how to really see things through their own eyes. And I did learn that reality is the narrative that we tell ourselves through our perception of things. And the more you train your perception, the more beautiful and different and rich your vision of reality, your narrative of reality becomes.
Yeah. Well, this is, I think, what is in many ways one of the virtues of the bespoke process, is that anyone that falls in love with clothing and the bespoke process really commits themselves to the journey. And it is through that journey that one does this exact thing of training their eye to understand what the proper proportions and aesthetics are, and then attuning their senses to that quality and that craftsmanship.
Very much. And it's, as you say, it's a process, meaning you can't get it right the first time around. If you commit to a bespoke journey, you need to understand that it's not just the tailor or the shoemaker, that it's learning what you like, but
Yeah.
it's you
Yeah.
learning what you like
Absolutely.
in the meantime.
Absolutely. That's the most important part.
It is an exchange. It's not a service that it's rendered. It's an exchange of experience and information.
Yeah. I mean, it's just fascinating to me, you know, I mean, here you are, someone that's lived in Florence, you know, your entire life. You're someone that grew up in the city. You grew up, you know, as a multi-generational kind of inhabitant of the city. Your parents grew up, your grandparents grew up here. You know, what is it like living in Florence? I mean, what is it that whenever you come back to visit, now that you live or spend half your time in New York, that you look forward to doing, and that is a part of, you know, a part of what it is that you only find here?
For many, many years, I still say I'm not attached to Florence, meaning I love it. I'm not emotionally bonded with the city. I could live anywhere, and I've been saying so since I was 20.
Okay.
And I've been traveling a lot, and I've been living abroad. The unique combination of elements that I can find in Florence is, anyways, unbeatable. It's, again, for the life I live, for what I love. Again, I'm a cyclist, so for me, the countryside nearby is the wine country is beautiful. I mean, it's my
Tuscany.
Oh my God, it's my happy place.
Yeah.
Go on those 3-4 hours trips, and it's beautiful. It's beauty everywhere you look, in every direction. I love the seas, and I have a beach house. It's an hour drive. I'm a wine lover, and the wine country, the wine scene here is very active. I'm a meat guy. Florence is known for, obviously, his steak, and not just his steak. We have, you know, hunting season, and it's the wild boar in winter is delicious. Produce, artichokes are my addiction, and it comes November, new crush and artichokes. I'm good for like 6 months. I can go on forever. So the combination of all these things makes it impossible to beat. I love Paris. I love London. I have a great time in New York. I've been in San Francisco more than I wanted. I like LA. I wouldn't settle anywhere else, only because this is the life I like to live. I cannot live it full time, so I miss the energy of the bigger cities. But this will always be home.
Yeah. Ah, well, what a beautiful home it is. And thank you for sharing a little bit of that with me today over a beautiful cappuccino, proper Florentine breakfast.
Absolutely, and that's time to
at
go
this
to work.
beautiful restaurant. Again, it's been we got an early start for the walking tour, and you know we saw
it was worth it.
How quickly things got busy.
Yeah.
No,
but I'm glad we got to do it in the morning, because you get to see what I see. So, otherwise, it's diluted and noisy. When it's just Florence, it's incredible.
Yeah. Well, Tommaso, thank you.
Let's go to work.
Yeah.